Hello everyone and welcome again to Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'll be teaching you how to make cream cheese chocolate chip cookies. That's right, this recipe makes the most moist, delicious, and soft cookies you've ever had. It'll become your go-to recipe. Let's get started. To kick things off, we'll need 2 1/4 cup of flour. Now, when talking about flour here, guys, I want to make a little bit of a note. Today, I'm making my cookies gluten-free, so I'm using rice flour with xanthan gum. If you're not on a gluten-free diet, then feel free to just use all-purpose flour. It's exactly the same measurements as it goes in 2 1/4 cups, and as always, I've left both recipes in the notes in the description. And to our flour, we add 1 teaspoon baking soda and 1 teaspoon salt. Mix your dry ingredients well before moving on to the next step. And for our fats, we have 1 1/2 sticks of butter, that's 3/4 of a cup, or 6 ounces, mixed with 2 ounces of cream cheese. This will make the best level of flavor, moisture, and texture for our cookies. Cutting the fat into small pieces and allowing it to come up to room temperature really helps make this process a little easier. Now I'm loading the fat into the base of my stand mixer. If you don't have a mixer, that's perfectly fine. You can 100% do this by hand. It'll just take a little bit longer. Mix until well incorporated and make sure to scrape down the sides of your bowls occasionally so that nothing sticks. To this, we're going to add 1 whole cup of brown sugar and 1/2 cup of white sugar. Using both sugars gives these cookies a very good depth of flavor and a wonderful texture. This process is called creaming, and it's a very important step of making the cookies. Don't skip on this. You really want to work the butter and sugar mixture here for a while because you're going to fold in a lot of air. Make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl, of course, as you go. As you can see, the more air we work into it, the lighter it becomes. It becomes a bit more fluffy, and the texture definitely changes. This is exactly what we're looking for. 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract go in, as well as the first of 2 eggs in this installment. We're going to just beat this first egg until completely incorporated and much lighter in color and texture. Again, you're folding in a lot of air, which is going to help later on with the baking process. That's why we do these in 2 stages. And as soon as we can't see any traces of the first egg, we add the second egg and beat well again. Now you're looking to create a nice, very light, kind of soupy batter that looks a little bit something like this. This is the perfect texture that you're looking for before we continue. Next step is to incorporate our dry ingredients into our mixing bowl. Now I did this in 3 stages solely because it's easier and a little bit less messy. You can absolutely add the flour mixture all at once and just mix it up well and slowly so it doesn't jump out of your bowl, or do it this way. It's completely up to you. Either way, you just want to make sure that all your flour is integrated and completely mixed in without any streaks. Mix it for an additional 1 to 2 minutes after all the flour is absorbed in. Today I'll be using 1 cup of dark chocolate chips and 1 cup of peanut butter chips. You can use anything that you'd like. Semi-sweet, M&Ms, toffee, dark chocolate, they'll all work. Heck, you can even use nuts if you'd like. The important part here is that your total add up to 2 cups. Since our dough is already really well mixed, at this point all we need to do is incorporate our chips and that's it. So as soon as they're mixed in, you can stop. And our dough is complete. Give the bowl one last scraping to get everything off the sides and cover with plastic wrap. We need to place this in the fridge for about 2 to 4 hours, but no less than 1 hour. During this rest in the fridge, it gives a chance for the dough to hydrate and for the flour to really draw that moisture in, keeping it in the cookie and making an amazing finished product. Don't skip this step, your patience will be rewarded. And 2 hours later, I've pulled my dough out of the fridge and it is still cold. There's no need to bring this up to room temperature before making cookies. Now we're going to portion this out. I'm using a spoon. If you have a scoop or a disher, go ahead and use that, but this works just as well. And I'm sure this isn't a mystery to anyone here. We're going to roll our cookies into a ball and press it down slightly flat so it looks a little bit like a disc, and it should come out a little something like this. We're going to place these onto a grease-lined baking sheet at least 1 or 2 inches apart so they can bake, and get ready to put them into the oven. In a preheated 375-degree oven, we're going to bake these for about 10 to 12 minutes. Now, it's just my wife and I in the house, and honestly, we don't need 36 fresh baked cookies all at once, so I'm going to go ahead and portion out and freeze the rest of this dough. Use a freezer-proof container and begin by taking 1 portion of the dough in your hands and rolling it out just as you did before to make a cookie, but do not flatten it out this time. Place it in the container and continue on with your next cookie dough ball, leaving a slight gap in between them so they don't freeze solid as one big piece. Finally, make sure to cover well with a tight-fitting lid. You want to make sure that the air can't get to this because there's a lot of fat in these cookies and that will absorb some funky flavors. Store in the freezer for up to 2 months. Just pull them out about 15 to 20 minutes to come up to room temperature before you want to cook them, and cook them just like normal. And 11 minutes later, after baking, my cookies have come out and are looking great. You want to go ahead and let these sit on the tray for about 3 minutes so they can finish cooking here before you transfer them to a wire rack. Or if you don't have a wire rack like me, you can try to use something like this that will elevate the cookie so that their air can get around it and they can cool completely and not gather any moisture beneath it. Or if you're like me and think that a fresh baked cookie right out of the oven is one of the best things in life, well, then there's no need to wait. You can go ahead and consume them as soon as they won't burn the roof of your mouth. This has become my go-to cookie recipe. That cream cheese adds such an extra level of flavor that you will not know what you were doing before without it in your life. And as I said, I've given you both recipes to make this with regular AP flour or gluten-free alternatives should you be on a gluten-free diet. And hey guys, it really is just that simple to make this delicious cookie at home tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you so much for watching, and I hope you appreciated the video and maybe you learned something today. I hope to see you again here all real soon on another episode of Minimalist Gourmet.